Did you know teachers aren't humans? They're not allowed to show stress or age, have health problems, show fear, waste time, and most of all, fail. They're not even allowed to go to the bathroom. But that's okay, because we're here to talk about how we're all just playing a role. And at 3 o'clock, we get to be us again. 40 years ago, two 8-year-old boys were bored out of their minds in school, and they vowed one day they would do something about it. They did it to honor their friends. They did it to honor their classmates. They did it for the love of learning. I'm Matt, and this is Rob. And 40 years later, we get our turn. But now we're playing teacher.
Recording in progress.
All right. Welcome to Playing Teacher. I am Matt, along with Rob here. This is Brugge, and recording's in progress. So what's happening, guys?
Hey guys.
Hey, not much. Well, a lot,
Hey.
but not much
I was
related
on
to
the not much related to education.
today, to today's topic. But
Oh, that's right. Well, speaking of today's topic,
This week- Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I
This
was
is
gonna
going
say that-
smoothly today, guys.
she likes to wait.
We got our time. We got our timing down.
She likes to wait until you start officially talking about something. Last time she interrupted in 0.5 seconds. This time she waited until you were about to introduce something.
I was
and then she
waiting.
jumped
Well,
in.
because you said, how was your week? This week was a bunch of like graduation stuff, which I know we'll probably talk about it on a different pod, but we had
I
our
think that's gonna be a pod,
graduation
definitely.
yesterday for kindergarten and Friday for fifth grade. And
Okay.
yeah, so it was fun. See these cutie pies graduating.
Yeah. No, I always loved I remember when Dylan had his kindergarten graduation. That was one that always stuck out to me, like getting to that. That was like one of the first big milestones.
Yeah.
That's when I actually skipped out on graduation practice. They let me go to his it was one of the few years that I didn't do the piano and all that stuff when they let me go to that. And I was actually on the subway going to see him, right? And that reminded me of our topic because I was on the train actually, Brooklyn train. I was on the F train, heading over to his school, and
Recently, right?
recently, yeah, that was like I think it was like within the last week. He just finished, and I'll meet him down there usually like at a cafe, and then we'll just go back. We'll take the train back, and so it's usually pretty quiet at that time, and all of a sudden, I'm relaxing, just chilling out, listening to some music, like 25 elementary still, school students just come on in, right? And I'm like, oh no. And like the teachers are there, and this is obviously like either a field trip or a class trip. And the kids are just like really, really like just acting up. And and because I've been a teacher so long, I just know the day that the teachers had. So I'm sort of just like taking it in. And I'm looking over at the teachers, and they're done. Like they don't care. But I'm
Wait,
like,
how many, I'm sorry, how many chaperones were there? Like, how old were the kids? How
Well,
many chaperones?
that's the thing. I was trying to figure out now because I was sort of like spacing out who was the teacher, or the teachers, or chaperones, and who was just like, like actually on the train. Because there were people standing up, I'm sitting down, right? And like, so I was like, who's in charge? Because nobody's doing anything. That's
Right.
why it was a little bit. It was kind of hard for me to figure out who was actually in charge. And so the kids start in front of me playing a balance game. I don't even know, but it's like, how can we hold our hands together, right? And
Oh,
maybe they're about like 8 years old, right? So like, how can we hold our hands together and not hold on to anything and not
right.
fall? Which now, what can
Yo,
happen is
I
they
played that
get
game as an adult.
right and usually fell, right? And at some point, someone's gonna fall. It's not gonna end well. But if you're
It's
on
so
the
much fun.
train, It's a lot of fun, except if you're on the subway, you're gonna fall into somebody and like knock them in the head, break their nose, or you're gonna fall and hit into a pole. It's not gonna end well. So I'm watching this. I'm just taking this in. Now I have a few choices. I can leave the subway, like car, when it stops and go into the next cart, right? Or I could just kind of stay there. But the train's getting like more crowded, and I didn't feel like moving. So and I'm also observing this. I'm sort of taking this in. I'm like, oh, like the guy over there, he's gonna stop this, right? So this is then I realized, okay, he's the teacher. He's looking, and and they're shifting. The balance isn't horrible, but he's like that. He says to them, "I told you, don't play that game anymore." That's what he said, right? So I was like, "Oh, okay, they're gonna stop," and I'm like, "That's as far as it went." All right. He sort of just like looked back and leaned against the wall, and they kept playing the game. And I'm like, and so I'm sort of like taking some. Is he gonna stop them? It's like, well, so now everybody around knows they don't care what you think, right? And they're going to just keep playing the game, right? And then other kids are like sitting, and then somebody just out of nowhere comes over and just like is like telling them like, remember you're on the train, like remember you're on the subway, like, and all right, somebody's stepping in there and take it, and then then they just walk away like they're done. So no
they're
one's
like, why do you think
really
we're playing the game?
right. Exactly. On the train. So I realized I was trying to figure out if they had no management before or they were just
or,
done from the day. But no, none of the kids were listening to
or
anything
done
they
from the
said.
school or done for the school year.
The end of the
Like,
year, right?
yeah.
Exactly. But I knew
So
as far as
crazy.
management,
It's always crazy to me, like when teachers plan trips for the last 2 weeks of school, or it's just like everybody's behaving like animals, like including the
well,
adults.
well, I did because I was asked at the end of the school year. Well, no, I was asked earlier in the school year, but I still went on a trip like towards the end of the year to like I was actually asked to plan trips for the entire school. So like and I was given like no extra time for this, just planned it. So if you guys have actually planned a school trip, like the amount of work that goes into this is, well, like Brugge, like you have a background like being um, a travel agent, right? So like imagine being like a travel agent for like 30 people all at the same time. That's what it feels like,
Right.
and and then you're not just planning the day out, you have to figure out, like just not just the place. You have to figure out their lunches. You have to make sure if somebody has allergies that they're going to have maybe a nurse come. They have to be there with us. And then if the nurse can't come, the whole trip is canceled. You have to
You
socialize with
have to
all the.
make sure that the buses are coming on the right day. You have
Hmm.
to make sure that you even can get the
Yep.
buses before you start planning this trip. Yeah, there's so many components to planning a trip.
Well, obviously, this is our topic today: class trips, right? So if it wasn't clear already, so it could be really a rewarding experience for them, but it also could be like a nightmare where things can go really, really wrong. And it could be a nightmare for the teachers as well.
I mean,
Um,
as a student, like traveling as a kid, obviously we didn't know all the like background and what was happening behind the scenes with teachers. Like as an adult, it's stressful, but as a kid, like they have the best time on those trips. That's why we do it, right?
Do you, do you
yeah.
guys remember? Think of a class trip that you went on as a student, if you can remember one. And I asked this mainly because when I was in elementary school, I don't think I ever went on a class trip. Like
What?
my school just
Rob,
didn't do that.
yeah,
Like I don't remember ever getting on a bus and going anywhere in elementary school.
I don't think I did either. I was like,
Wow.
because I went blank when you just asked me, and
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like, did they block my memory? Like was I brainwashed? Did they do something? Did nothing popped into my head? I'm trying to think.
I
I
had
don't
gone on
remember.
a
We went on
couple
so many
like
trips.
in summer
Maybe
camp,
that.
but Brugge, tell us about a trip that you went on.
So, I mean, I have two stories, but before I get into them, we went everywhere. We went to Philadelphia. We went on a week-long
Elementary?
trip to elementary school. We went to
Okay.
Philadelphia. We went to Greenkill, which was like a camp
Yeah.
upstate. We went for a week. We went to the beach. We did. like I want to say like an amusement park. We went to like fields, to regular parks. But I also grew up out on Long Island, so different
Yeah.
experiences. Um, I remember so two trips that I'll say. The first one we went to in Philadelphia. We went to a museum, and I remember I got lost and I didn't know I couldn't find
Oh
anybody.
man.
I was like in fifth grade, and I don't know how I got separated by the chaperone. I was like, it was me and a bunch of boys. And I remember specifically who these boys were. I'll never forget. And I went to like the security booth, and they called my name, and I was like on the top of these stairs, and all the boys, when they called like whatever over the loudspeaker for the chaperone to come get me, all the boys came like running up the stairs like they was like so excited to find me. Um,
Now, you did
yeah.
you stayed like I'm assuming you stayed overnight like in Philadelphia or no?
I don't remember if that trip we stayed overnight. We definitely stayed overnight in Greenkill. That was like
Oh,
a week. Yeah.
I went.
Um,
I remember actually eighth grade towards the graduation. We went on one trip to like a dude ranch or whatever. It was probably out on Long Island somewhere where like you have the opportunity to like shoot bow and arrow or you know what I mean, like to do all these
yeah.
things that you don't ever do in the city. You know what I mean, like but yeah, I think that might have been the only trip I ever remember going on in elementary school or middle school because I went K to 8.
That's fun. Did you go like horseback riding?
Um, no, that was something I did in summer camp, but
Yeah.
not on a trip with school. You know what I mean?
All right. Yeah, yeah.
Matt, you have the same experience? Like you don't you're
I have nothing.
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it was a Brooklyn. That's why maybe the field day meant so much to me going when they took me to
yeah.
a beach. They took us all to a beach club, and it was actually my childhood beach club, so I knew the place real well. Maybe that's why it stayed, it stuck out in my head so much because I don't remember going on any elementary school trips. I'd have to ask some buddies that I still know from elementary,
Yeah.
um that I'm friends with, like did they have it? 'Cause I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on those kind of experiences. I don't even remember anything in middle school either.
Yeah. Yep.
High school. It's weird. Like I didn't have anything like that. Like my son
Well,
goes on a trip every other week. That's how their school runs. Like that. No, it's called Exhibition
Yeah,
Thursdays. I think I
yeah.
mentioned this before. So like he's different. And they take the subway and they go somewhere. They go like to Manhattan. Or they do whatever. I didn't have anything like that. So nothing sticks out. A few days, I remember, but we were involved in something. I played the cello. So one time we went to a studio and we were on the radio, so that was a cool day in high school. I
Maddie, you
remember.
play the cello?
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
so cute.
I was really involved as a cello. I was like first cellist.
Ah,
Wait, how old were you when you started
It was,
performing or playing?
I just started right when I started middle school, and I played all through high school.
oh
And
man.
then as soon as high school ended, I never played cello again.
You see, you guys had a proper education. Like you
Wow.
guys had like musical instruments. Like I never touched a musical instrument all the way through the end of high school.
You could juggle.
True. But that's like
Can you
self-taught.
play the kazoo?
It's not
No.
easy to play the
Wait,
kazoo. To really get the kazoo right, that does take a certain amount
or
of
the
skill.
didgeridoo? What's the one in Australia where you're like, is it the one that you
Oh,
whip or the one you
oh.
play? The long one.
That's
You remember the blue twirly pipe that
the
you
one
could
that
spin
whistles.
and yeah, that
Yeah,
whistles.
yeah, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
You can
It's like
make
a
it go
great
different.
science toy.
That I use
Yeah.
Yeah.
it.
So let's switch gears then because we don't have many great stories about our childhood trips except Brugge getting lost
No,
in
no, you can say it's like,
Philadelphia.
well, let's
I
talk about our childhood trips.
my
Silence.
one trip when I was when we were middle and high school, we didn't really take trips anymore. But we did go on trips with like our like cross country and track team. And I had asked my friends prior to this podcast, I was like, guys, do you remember like stories from when we were in high school going on trips? And my friend Sophia was like, yes. She's like, don't you remember when we were on the bus going to a track meet, there was a guy next to us in a car masturbating, and
I
the
said
guidance
sorry. No, I was kidding.
and the I totally forgot about this. And the guidance counselor got involved, and she was like traumatized. And I don't know if she actually
Oh
was
man.
traumatized, but like the guidance counselor had to like contact her family. Like it was a whole thing.
This is
It's a
this is
great
the
story, Brooke.
this is this is the kind of content I expect from Brugge. This is great.
Thanks for sharing.
So
I do
so
want to say that
Rob, anybody
that's not the
anybody
first time that's
masturbate in your next
happened.
story?
so
That's
you're
not the first time that happened to me,
so you're on
by the way.
but I'm not sure which part she's referring to, but
That can go in a lot of
I know,
different
yeah,
directions
yeah.
there.
It's like,
First,
wait,
it happened to you.
is it not
I
the
don't
first
know. This
time you
is
were on a bus and someone was driving next to you doing that or something, like
Yeah. Not on a bus, on a car.
that's
in a
I
car. Yeah,
can't
you're
breathe.
right.
on a bus I can
Well,
Anyway,
understand though, because you can see down, you're high up, but if you're in a car,
this is a sticky situation.
it-
All right, leave that there. I got freaking that. Okay.
it's- okay,
Should I do a few more of that?
no,
No. All right. We'll leave
wait,
it.
wait, let's now let me ask you a question. Briggy,
I'm crying.
Matt,
Ruby, stop
Matt,
jerking us around. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Matt and I are going to have stories as teachers, but do you, I guess, ever since working in a school, were you ever part of field trips where you would either plan them or go on them with the kids?
Um, yes, yeah. So like once I went with a teacher, she invited me to go. It was like, I want to say it was last year. We went to go see the Trolls movie and she was in charge of that. But when I was the cheer coach, the coach for the cheerleading team, and when I was the co-coach for the Minecraft club, I have to organize trips.
Okay.
Yep.
So, um,
And it's a pain in the ass.
yeah. So I'm going to say
Like
really,
you had like three of like, how many kids did you have? Maybe like 8 or 9, something like that.
With cheerleading, we had about 30.
Oh yeah. Okay.
With Minecraft, we had about 10.
and did you
Okay.
take the subway or a bus?
No, those, so initially we were going to do a bus, then we were going to do the subway, and then the parents were like, we're just going to drive because it turned into a fiasco trying to get transportation
Yeah.
to the school that we had to get to for the Minecraft tournament. Like it was a whole thing.
So they just
So,
drove themselves there and met
so
there.
yeah, so
Ah, it's easy.
we had
Yeah.
parents who carpooled. It was the best thing. I've also organized trips as like to other middle schools, and I end up turning them into walking trips
Yeah.
because transportation is such a clusterfuck.
Yo,
So
so they come to me and like, hey, so like, this is years ago. They're like, so here, I want you to do a Broadway show. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that's cool. All right, so how am I gonna get? You guys gonna get? But no, you're gonna take the subway. What do you mean? How many kids? Like 30 kids. You're gonna take them on the subway and take 2 teachers. So it's like one per 10. Okay, and then we actually we're going to Halsey Street, in Ridgewood, right? And we're about to get this little tiny. So we get through the carts, and I give them a piece of paper at the time, and they let us all in, right? I have 30 kids there, only 2 chaperones, right? And then the train comes, right? And I'm like, all right, everybody, get in. This was their idea of like, safety. So they sent us in. So we go in the train car. You got about 5 seconds before the train doors close, electronic train doors, and you go doo doo, so you have to make sure all these little bodies are inside. And I'm like, all right, everybody in, everybody in, everybody in. And then you go inside and you kind of stick your head out again. And I'm like, you just hope for the best. But oh my God. And then you go into Manhattan, right? Like, in Times Square, right? Where you're walking around and like you got 30 kids just kind of like loose, and
oh my
you
God,
try.
I'd be a nervous wreck. I'd be counting heads
And
every
I'm
second.
responsible for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Luckily I had two
Yeah.
great teachers. I got to pick who I want to go with, So I had 2 people with me, and we had a fantastic day. We went to like a chocolate shop actually, and we sat outside. I think I remember we ate. We had a blast. Chocolate shop we just kind of added in. I think one of the teachers,
What
'cause I know a
chocolate
great
shop?
shop. I don't remember somewhere in Times Square.
Was
Somewhere
it
in
like
Times
was it
Square.
like the Hershey store, or was it like a chocolate shop? No,
Was it
I don't.
Vosges?
I don't remember,
no,
guys.
not in Times Square.
I could ask this teacher. I
Was it
could find
Did
out.
it seem fancy or?
Was Jacques Torres?
I don't think it seemed fancy. No, it didn't seem fancy. But I remember we went there. I could find out. I could ask this teacher. If you want to know. But it was
So
a long time ago. So we did that, and then we went to see a Broadway show. I think it was Sister Act. And then we get back on the train again. So now you
Sister
get,
Act.
and then we get back, and it's nighttime. We came back, and then they tell you if you don't get on the train at a certain point, you can't come back on. Like they're not gonna pay for it anymore or something like that.
oh, you're
So like
okay.
Oh,
we had to make a time. Otherwise, like what do you. So what happens then? You're trapped in Manhattan with like 30 kids.
Yeah.
So like you'd have to pay for 30 kids to come back. So all right, just like pay $300. I don't even know. So you just hopefully we just made it. Then we came back. And it was like nighttime by the time we got back. And I'm like, this,
I'm going to derail this for a second. Who chose Sister Act? Because that's the worst. Like I
I
couldn't even
I don't
imagine as a kid.
I don't think I chose the play. I think it was given to me, but I was like, I was teaching theater at the time, so I was like asked to organize it,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Wait, can I ask a
Yeah,
question
I'm
before
teasing
you
you.
jump back in? I want to
Yeah.
go back to like you get off the subway, you're walking through Manhattan. You have to do the whole thing where you're crossing streets and like one
Yeah.
person has to
Hmm.
block the cars and from either way. So that's nerve-wracking too. So you get to the theater though, and then do you guys
Yeah.
have to wait on the normal line, or is there a way for a class to kind of go into another entrance?
Well, you just stay together the whole time,
Yeah.
and then, there's other classes, doing this also,
Okay.
So like matinees, they got used to, I think there's
Oh,
a,
I
there's a
see.
system down, so
Yeah.
they're pretty used to, you stay together. It's like one per 10, so, you have your 10 that you're always sort of making sure and counting and making sure they're always there,
How do they
so.
manage like the kids get snacks and stuff? Like how did that work?
Well, we had lunch before, and I think we ate outside. I think man. So like yeah, I don't remember exactly if we brought it or not. I know from my last trip, we were told we had to bring the lunches with us,
Yeah.
even though we weren't going to probably eat. So basically, so it was just in case. Um, we didn't make it back in time, and then it gets weird because you're not allowed. That's when we took a bus trip to go see a puppet show. That's when I was asked to go to organize trips for the whole school. So I'm doing first grade, and I organize a whole the whole first grade to go to a puppet show, right? But then I'm told, I booked the trip, which is a nightmare going back and forth with
Which
teachers.
is
My
like a
favorite thing
hundred
to do.
something kids, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then so we have like multiple buses, and I'm in charge of this whole thing, and
And
I
nobody's
have
helping you. Like nobody's
no,
helping
no.
organize.
Well, there's teachers involved, but who are great with the permission slips and things like that. You go to them, and but you're basically going back and forth, back and forth. But it's on no one's time but mine. You know what I mean? Like so, it's
Right.
on my prep.
You're like
They're
the
not
project
doing.
manager. You're like
Yes,
the prime.
yeah, but in the middle of all this, you're teaching. There's no extra time that I
Yeah.
was given for
Yep.
this. So what am I going to say? No, they asked me to organize trips, so I'm organizing trips. So I guess it came up. I heard it sort of came up at a meeting. Like we should go on more trips. So so obviously it came down to let's
We
have
should go more.
Jacobs do it.
Yeah,
You're
let's
right.
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
Matt
let's get Matt.
Jacobs in
He just
charge.
he needs things to do. During his spare time. Let's get it. That's in my head. Somehow it came to that. I sort of put it together. Like, how did this happen? How did
Yeah.
this come out to me that I am taking the entire school places? So
Right.
anyway, so when I heard it, I knew it was like I played it so far. I was like, oh, it's great. I love to go places, and I was like in my head, I walked away like this fucking sucks. You know what I mean? I was thinking about how many, people there are in the school, the amount of time we have, like to get things done. And then I realized, man, and it's also my least favorite thing to do, like walk around and, now at this point in my life, like socialize and organize. And, I just want to teach, get the fuck out of there. Right. But no, so I'm doing this. But then I was told, make sure you have the lunches, right? There on the bus. But here's the thing, you're not allowed to eat on the bus. So it was like, but make sure they have to have the food by this time. And for some reason, there's traffic, they have to get fed before you come back, so they can get into a lot of trouble. So we
So
were
where are you
like,
supposed to eat?
that's exactly. So I was thinking, like, what are they gonna like stand in front of this? I'm trying to figure out, stand in front of the bus and like shove a sandwich in their mouth before they get on.
Why
So
there's so many fucking rules? Like when we were
I,
kids, rules were not like this. Like
it's
it was like,
crazy. So you take this giant blue bag that has all the sandwiches. So I was basically doing this, and I'm running to go check the buses. They're there. Hey, can I put? And then it's pouring raining for this puppet trip. So it's raining on me. I'm drenched. I got these two giant blue bags and I'm putting them on. Luckily, the bus driver comes to the back and I'm putting them on. I'm running. The kids are all happy and they're bouncing, and some of the parents are coming with us and they're bouncing up and down. And then it's pouring, and then we're going on, and then we get them on. We get them on the buses, on the two buses. It's raining all over. So we're soaking wet. We get them on. They have a blast. They did. They had a blast, and so you think it's
well,
worth it. For me, then you
I
got to
think
take
one
the
of
blue. I had to take the blue bags back up to the rooms, and then the kids have like 20 minutes to eat, and they're
to
in the
eat.
rooms and they're eating. Then you have to then take these bags then back downstairs, and I'm like, by the end of it, you're like, okay, it's done. You did
The
it.
most important rule, like for class trips, is that asthma or a medical condition rule where you need either a nurse or
Nurse,
a parent to travel, because if you don't have that, then the entire trip is canceled. I've had to scramble
right?
last minute, even for walking trips. Like I remember scrambling,
When
I
did
think
they
it was
start
actually
that?
this year.
That's how
A
I was told that also. Yeah.
that's been a while. So like I can remember scrambling this year because that was I totally forgot about that rule. And we were doing a walking trip to a middle school for like a tour. And at the last minute, it was like, this kid has asthma and he needs a nurse. And if the nurse can't go, you need to get his parents to go. And if the parent can't go, then the whole trip
Whole trip is
it's
off.
canceled.
This is
And
It
I'm
gets
like,
into a
oh
weird
shit.
area because
I'm like, oh shit.
I think we were told that either one was not going to go at all, or one was like, so don't worry about it, or
Oh,
and
right.
then
Or they don't have to go. The parent will keep them
but you
home. Yeah.
you can't go to them and say like, why don't you please stay? You can't. You're not allowed to do that.
this is
Please stay home because we can't get the nurse. I mean, like it gets into a weird area because yeah, you're
Yeah.
almost like you could plan and then the whole thing gets screwed up. Then the whole thing's done by cash and they keep giving you cash. Then you got to bring the cash over to the place. When I went to this place, I had so many singles, and there's this like old man in the back of the puppet theater, and I'm like, all right, I get everybody, he's sitting down, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pay now, okay, and I take out like it's like I'm going to a strip club. I take out like 300 singles and I'm like counting them out for him. And he's used to it, like like he's not giving me any problems. Like, yeah, 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 yeah. And we're counting it out. I'm like, just count, yeah, and I do the deal. Then I sit in back of the puppet theater and I watch the show and I'm like, kind of pretending to be happy, but I'm just like, this is a lot. This is this is a lot to organize and be in
the
charge of,
the ner the
like
ner
in one day.
the nurse thing must be like in the last 10 years because I never had that in all the trips I ever took. I never had to deal with that. But I had kids who had diabetes, like type 1 diabetes,
Yeah.
asthma, like a variety of different things. Um,
Right.
but so
Hmm.
I was just thinking back, like I started teaching in 2001, right? And so it's kind of funny because it's like a lot of people, it wasn't my first job, but it was like one of my first, you know what I mean? It was one of my earlier jobs. And so like the feeling of being an adult, it wasn't like the first time that I stood in front of the class and was teaching. It was like when I had to do certain things as a teacher. One of them was taking kids on a field trip. And another one was like organizing your first play, like your first school play with your class, where you have to like
Right.
have your kids memorize lines and put on a performance. But like one thing that I remember I was very lucky because I had someone else who was the ultimate organizer who would basically like set up the trip and I would just have to like be there. And that was Dr. Neil. So
Ah,
Dr. Neil and I started in the same school in the same grade the same year. And so he would like
Nice.
organize the entire trip and then he would just let me know like what day we were going. He would give me the permission slips, like, you know. But
I
yeah, I
could have
wanna
used that for my puppet thing. No, but no, I wasn't fortunate. I had Herbie the chicken, basically,
let's go like around and try and name different places that we have either accompanied kids, taken kids, or if you want, Brugge, since you've been on a lot when you were a kid, you can mention something that you have been to when you were younger. So let's take turns going around and listing destinations. Like one of mine that I've taken my students to, and that like I took like a whole grade of students to would be like the Hall of Science in Queens.
Oh,
Like
Oh, that's a
nice.
good
that was a
one.
trip that we would do all the time.
That's nice.
Movie theater,
Yeah. Okay.
St. John's.
Wait, St.
Well,
John's
I'm
movie theater?
No, a movie theater, and then
Okay.
another one was
No,
yeah,
you get
and then
one. We're taking
oh
turns.
shit,
You
I
name
screwed
one
up
thing.
already.
Yes. Now we're skipping you next time. Okay, Matt.
Rob, you
I
know that
took
you have to repeat the directions multiple times for me.
I'm gonna wait till Rudy's finish because it was my turn and I was following Rob's rules of this assignment. Is it my turn?
Yeah, I think
Are
it's
you done,
safe. I think
Bruggy?
it's safe to go now, Matt.
I'm okay.
She's
You
doing the.
sure, Bruggy? Okay. All right. Well, right after COVID, everybody was very nervous, and they didn't. Nobody. So I actually kicked it off with the trips. I took my class on a short walking trip over to a middle school to participate in a concert where they got to just watch um, the other kids perform. And a lot of them were going to be going there, so it was kind of cool that they got to familiar with the music program and things like that. So and it was interesting time to go on the trip because you still got to wear your mask. This was during this time. We were back, but nobody was really doing trips yet, so um, it was a little bit of I wasn't nervous, but it was like everyone was sort of like uptight about the whole thing, and it was a big deal. I remember just like walking out again with the kids, because it seemed like it was, even though it's been like, it was like a year and a half, it seemed like a long time before anybody did anything like that.
Hmm. We did. I think one of the first trips that Neil and I took with our classes was we took the kids into the city in Soho and went to the Scholastic building, and they had like Carlene worked at Scholastic, so there was this whole like author presentation that they did, and then we took them to this place called Evolution, which was a little store in Soho that had all these like bones, like skulls and bones and skeletons and stuff, and then and then we came back.
That's pretty cool.
Um, Skipping Brugge, she already went.
All
Yep.
right.
Or
Okay.
she said
So
St. John's. I don't know what kind of trip that was, but it's a, so is it
It was
what was this a college trip? Was it
yeah, so we did a for cheer camp. We took our girls over to St. John's to watch the St. John's cheerleaders, and they
cool?
actually did it like a clinic with our cheerleaders. It was really cool.
that is cool. For 5 years I got to kind of do maybe a little bit longer. I got to have like Dylan come with me on a an outing where I took my chorus to go perform in like a district performance. So I would work with my kids. I would do this every for a winter concert every year, and I would work with them on the music at school, and then we got to go to the middle school, the same middle school I mentioned before. But this was something where they were in the concert. So he would come with me, and it was always like our thing. We would go, we would get dinner, and he would go and, we'd meet the kids and get them ready, and he would like help out. So it was kind of cool that we got to do that together. Especially they would give us like a plaque every year. So I would just bring him up with me, he got involved, and kind of he got to see me in action as, during, my time as a teacher. That was pretty much the times when I would like bring him in like to help me out, and things like that. But it was cool. It was cool for the kids, to go to, to get to perform with the older kids.
Yeah.
That was rewarding. They enjoyed it, and they were pretty well behaved, for that kind of thing. Oh, yeah. What about behavior? Do you guys want to talk about like, um, you know, have you guys had any like nightmare experiences with behavior going on trips?
No, my kids are always good.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily, yeah, nothing sticks out of my mind where, anybody's gotten like in trouble
But I
seriously,
also had like niche groups of kids. Like
Hmm.
those kids were specifically for Minecraft or specifically for cheer. Like if I was a first grade teacher or a kindergarten teacher, and then, you have everyone in the class with the wide range of behaviors, like we would probably have to ask our classroom teachers their experiences and like, so I'm sure that's different for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, no, behavior was never an issue really for me. So I never had any incidents or anything, you know?
It has to be a
Yeah.
nightmare for certain teachers, like
Oh
going
my
places
gosh.
and
Yeah.
knowing these certain kids.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard nothing comes to mind right now, but I feel like I've heard stories of teachers who we worked with having gone on trips and in like incidents having happened, like when they were out. You know what I mean? Like things that kind of made the news around the school when they got back or wherever,
Oh,
you
like
know?
look at Brugge's field day story. Like what a kid pees on the bus. All the shoes are wet when you come back. Everybody's
Yeah.
sitting and taking off their shoes and socks. Rain. The weather is like, oh my
I
gosh.
mean, sometimes teachers, like I know for sure this happens every year. This happened this year as well. Like teachers will say to the parents, like, you have to come on the trip with your kid
Yes,
if they
right.
have too many like occurrences, like incident reports or behavioral issues, like they have to come on the trip
Yeah,
because they're a danger to themselves, to other kids.
right. Yeah, because like I don't think people appreciate what you were talking about, Matt. People who are listening who aren't from New York, the taking of kids whether you're taking them on the subway or whether you're taking a bus into the city, like being in the city with a
Yeah.
hundred kids or 30 kids or 60 kids crossing busy streets, going to these public places. So I guess the best way to put this is places that aren't encapsulated, right? So like there are some trips that you take where you go to a museum or something and there's no way for a kid to escape. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so the worst case is that, they like, I don't know about you, Briggy, when you lost in Philadelphia, like Home Alone style, but you were probably in a building or something, right? Like you were,
Yes. Yeah,
right.
we were in
So,
a building.
so your teachers knew you were somewhere in there, but like when you're out in the city, there's the opportunity and the ability for someone to like get lost. You know what I mean? Like to not get off the subway. You know what I mean? Like I've heard those stories before. Like a kid who didn't get off the subway in time, or you know what I mean? Like, and then like you're rushing to the next stop, or you're, whatever. And this is, a lot of these trips that we're
It
talking
could
about.
easily happen.
Right.
That's why I was sticking my head out the electronic doors,
Yeah. We
risking my
didn't have
head
cell
being chopped
phones
off.
back when I'm talking about these early trips too. There were no cell phones. You know
No,
what I mean? So
no,
No.
yeah, modern technology
Well, back
definitely
then,
changed the
also,
game.
like I feel like it was so different because we were all very much aware of like stranger danger and like what to do in case of an emergency. I don't know that our kids now are being taught like what to do because they're so plugged in with their phones, like they would just make a phone call. But say that phone doesn't work, you know, different times. Like I knew exactly what I needed to do at 9 years old and like where I needed to go to find an adult. I don't know.
do you guys have
I
any?
hated it. I hated it in the end of the day, even like, having the kids like, dismissing was always like something I hated doing, sending the kids off, like, where we were. And it was just like all the kids were in the in the yard, right? And then it's supposed to be organized, but there was like one line, and then all the parents are on one side, and then you're on the other side, and you just like you're sending them, and you see the parent, but it's
Yeah.
like, here, go off to the abyss, little
Yeah.
5-year-old
It's like,
Jimmy, and I'm
you
like, I'm
go,
sure you'll be fine.
go, you
Yes,
go.
go, you go, make the walk over, It's like yes, and I hated it, like that experience, like just sending them off
And if
because.
you don't recognize the person, but the kid does, and you're asking a kid like, who is that?
Yeah,
They're
exactly. Like,
like,
who
that's
is
my
that?
aunt. You're like,
That's my
really?
that's my nephew's brother, sister's friends. And like, did they
Do
sign the paper?
do
What
you know
paper?
this
Did they have
person?
to?
Oh, so
So
I have some
yeah, I was about to say that, Brugge. I was about to say, Brugge, do you have any?
on the
I,
same
I
page,
did
man.
have. I had a nightmare trip thing come. A recent one coming back at night. Where it was bad. A girl didn't get picked up. No one came and got her.
But you were at school.
And no, we were at the other school. We were at the middle school, and nobody came and picked up the girl.
But
Wow.
what do you mean you were at the middle school? Like that was where
I
the
was at
trip?
the middle school doing a concert. Well, it is a trip because we're not at our school. You know what I mean? We're going to do a show.
Yep.
We took my elementary school kids to the middle, and no one came and got the girl.
But you
So
didn't. I guess what I'm asking is, after you finished the concert, you didn't go back to the elementary school. The
we
kid.
did. We
Oh,
did. We brought, but
so
no, yeah. So we had to bring the kid back to the elementary school.
yep,
I'm there with the principal. You know what I mean? Like, and
yep,
I'm there with like a para or two.
yeah, yeah,
Dylan's with me. You know what I mean?
yep.
And but first we're waiting at the middle school, and all right, who's getting you? Who's getting you? And like nobody was there. So we had to go back, and then um, you know we had to make the call, we had to have someone translate, Spanish and the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing. And then, eventually, it worked out,
Yeah. I feel like
it,
that's
the
actually
whole, the whole situation. Yeah, but
very,
it was scary
very.
because it was nighttime,
Yeah,
which is a
yeah.
little bit more scarier.
I just feel like it's very, but I mean, like you're at the school, you guys are there. Basically, what that means is that you guys can't leave
No, it's
until there's a
figure it
Now
out.
you
resolution.
can't leave.
So
What's
now you
that?
can't. Now
Now
you just
Right.
you
can't leave.
can't leave.
Bronx Tale reference. That's right.
So no, I feel like I'm actually very familiar with where you have a kid who's just not picked up for whatever reason, and you're essentially like waiting there. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I know that there have been cases too where it gets to a certain point where the police come, right?
Or you have to go to the police station, they say.
But did you guys ever accompany a kid to the hospital or to like police station or
Yes.
anywhere else? I did once
Hmm.
Yes.
to the hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to
Multiple
think.
times. Like I've ridden in ambulances
Yes. Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of
Right.
all of that. All of that. But I think that also comes with like as a counselor, that's part of like the position to
Yeah.
I
yeah.
was in a police car when a parent came and she couldn't find her kid, and we did it, and somehow like I went to help. So I'm in the police car with the cops and the woman who's like crying and hysterical, and we did like a drive around the neighborhood to find the kid. So it was like, so we're driving around like Queens looking for the kid, and I'm like calming down the parent, and we're trying to like just look for this kid who was missing. And somehow like I went to help. So
Yeah.
I'm like with the cops, like on a special mission, like and looking, and eventually, I remember how the kid was found, but thank God. But like that was a crazy one. It's like not how you thought you'd be expending your morning teaching, like in the cop car for a good reason, like
Yeah.
driving around looking for a kid with, and I think it was his aunt, if I remember correctly.
Bru
Um,
Yeah.
Brigid, when you went to the hospital with the kids, what happens after you go in the ambulance, you go into the hospital, the kid goes in the hospital, and then what? I just
I'm
want
with the child
until
until a parent shows up, and
and
that can
then
be hours.
and then
And then I have to wait for somebody to come pick me up,
right.
or I have to Uber. I had to like,
Yeah.
it
That's what
was
I was getting
like
at. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like because like the time that I did it, like the principal was like, "Oh, we need someone to accompany this person." So I was like, "Yeah, totally, I'll go." Wyckoff Hospital, but we go, and then the parent shows up, and then I leave. But then yeah, you're basically stranded there. Then you know what I mean? Like so,
Yeah.
it's like it's like just find a way back. You know what I mean? So then yeah, I
Right.
think, and this was before kind of Uber too for me. So it was like figuring out how to then get back to the school, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But
Well, I've been on the flip side of going to get my own son and then having to take him to emergency because he was in after school and he like smashed into a wall,
oh
you know.
no, yeah,
And then like so you know you get there and then so his leg was screwed up and his head like he you know so he's
Aw.
bleeding. He needed stitches. So you know you get him and I see his little face and like you know so I had to literally carry him like into a car and then we go to emergency and then it's a whole thing. I spent the hours there. You know, I don't know if your kids ever been in an emergency, if either
yeah.
one of your kids,
You ever
but
see Kramer
Yeah.
versus Kramer?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the eye. Yeah, that's like my nightmare, right? When
He's
I
stupid
have
running.
eyes,
He's
no
running.
idea. I have no
eyes
idea
freak
what
me
you're
out.
talking about.
Yeah, it was Dustin
Oh,
Hoffman running through the city
I
carrying his kid whose face is bleeding.
his wife leaves him,
oh.
right? It has no, he is, and he has like a 4-year-old kid, right? And I think he was like 4, right, Rob? He was
He
really
was
young.
young. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he falls off the monkey bars and he just like lands, and then his eye is just bleeding, and the next they just cut. He's like running, and and you see the fear in Dustin Hoffman's
Yeah.
head, and then like he just takes him into the emergency, and he's like doing emergency surgery on him, and he's like, is he gonna lose his eye? Is he gonna lose his eye? And he was asking him, he didn't lose his eye, but it was so freaky. It was so obviously, like I think I was when I heard. Dylan smash into the wall is probably connected to that. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And before you get there, the fear as a parent, before you see your kid, I'm like, all right, what's going on? I'm like, okay, he's bleeding pretty bad. Can't, he's having trouble walking, so the leg wasn't broken, he just, she was just messed up. He had x-rays and everything. But yeah, it's
Brugge,
it's scary.
do you
Yes.
have it? Do you have something for us?
Yes, I do actually.
Oh,
I have class trips. Class trip story time, guys.
Oh
Um,
wait, wait.
trip stories, class trip stories. Woo, woo, woo. I don't,
Okay. The first part of Matt's doing that was didn't come through, but then it came on, so we captured it.
did
I
I
just saw
screw it up
Matt's
or?
mouth moving. Like
same.
I could tell that the siren sound was happening, but it wasn't coming through, and then it jumped in. So that's good.
I have to work on that.
Um, all right, guys, you ready?
Yes.
So I have some class trip stories that I have found. And all right, so the first one, why these are all students that range K through 12th grade. So
Okay.
all um, elementary, middle, and high. All right. While whale watching, as the boat pulled away from the dock, students started puking from motion sickness. There was vomit everywhere. Number two.
Wait. I just want to say,
Oh,
like,
yeah, go for it.
my family went on a trip to Maine once and we did a whale watching thing, my entire family. And the first time we went out, everyone except me got so sick, like they were puking, and we didn't see any whales. So then they invited us back for a free to do it again. And I was the only one who went back on. I was like 12 years old, you know? And I was like in the front of the boat, like Leo in Titanic. Like the boat is going up and down, you know, it was so fun. But yeah, my family refused to go back on
I've
there.
never seen that movie.
What?
What, the one with
Wait,
Leo
I
Ti-
Titanic
thought you
with
were
Leo
gonna say,
DiCaprio?
I feel like I thought you were gonna say you were on the front of the boat like in Free Willy. I didn't know
I
you
never saw
were gonna
that
go.
movie.
You never saw Free Willy?
No, you never saw
I saw
Titanic.
everybody saw Titanic.
I mean,
Free Willy.
no, no,
Don't
don't.
you don't you wonder why everybody has like their arms open and someone's like holding on, you know?
The king of the
Oh,
world. Like, are you
Yeah, King of
comparing
the
Free Willy to Titanic? Titan.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go to number two.
didn't Free
Yeah.
Willy win like a bunch of awards?
What the The Teen Choice Awards? What? I don't remember. I,
The Blockbuster Award. That definitely went to Free Willy.
A second grade trip, a second grade class went on a field trip to the Outback Steakhouse to
oh.
learn about Australian culture.
Ah, okay. Bloomin' Onion.
While at Bush, oh, the bloomin' onion, man. When I could eat that, that was the best thing. I loved the bloomin' onion. It
Have you
was so
got
good.
just a quick side quest again here? Have you guys ever had your credit card stolen? Like where, you so like I
Yeah.
somehow someone got my credit card number and what did they charge? They charged $1,000 worth of food at Outback Steakhouse. That's the only thing they
Oh,
did. I see 1,000 like $1,200 Outback Steakhouse. I was
So
like,
good, man.
okay.
Okay, while at Busch Gardens theme park, a bunch of chaperones went on a beer tasting.
Ooh.
again,
I
I
guess
apologize.
Is this from your
they couldn't
autobiography, Brugge? Is this one of the
they
chapters in
couldn't
your
handle
autobiography?
they couldn't handle the kids. Oh my God.
Uh,
Okay. A class trip to a funeral home.
oh.
A student passed out while standing around the embalming table.
Oh, okay.
A
Oh.
class trip to the
I'm still
local police
processing that
station.
one.
Could you imagine going to a funeral parlor,
Was
funeral home, and like witnessing the
I
embalming?
want to know what the
Oh,
I want to know what the
I mean,
age
it
of
remind,
like was this like
well,
high
yeah, it reminds
school,
me.
like
Yeah, well,
biomedical
it reminds me of
sciences?
the first thing I thought of is Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and that scene when they're in not in the funeral, but they're part, but they're in like the doctor's office where they open the dead body. You know what I mean? Like and they show like, look, now we can really see the organs like they are, and the woman she feels like she's gonna pass out, and Jennifer Jason Leigh goes outside and she's about to be sick.
a class trip to the local police station where students were locked in a cell and they took
Oh,
mugshots. The cell next to them was occupied by a criminal who was cursing and pissed herself.
wow.
That's the real experience. What was it?
That's like,
What's that show? Scared Straight?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
that's
And sorry, go ahead.
no.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to
I'm
have two more.
shocked.
I'm going to do two more. All right. In seventh grade, students went to a nunnery. They prayed for 3 hours and then they spent 20 minutes explaining why the nunnery existed.
Wow.
I
That's a
must
lot of
have sucked.
rosaries. That's a lot of rounds around the rosary beads, you know.
All right, last one. A bunch of kindergarten students went to the elephant enclosure at the zoo. One little boy piped up and said, "Hey, this place smells like my grandma's house." I thought that was so cute.
Yeah.
Kids are the cutest, man. This place smells like my grandma's house.
Yeah. One day we'll talk about the brutal honesty of children,
Oh my
as a
God.
as a
Yeah.
topic.
You ever see that? What do 5-year-olds do when something smells? Do you ever see what they do?
No.
They do this. And then another one does it.
I do that. I
And then
do that.
they don't say anything. They just they'll just all of a sudden you could just like they'll just do this.
Or like when I'm in session and they're poofing, farting, I call it a poof. When they're poofing in my room and I'm just like, oh my God, it
Oh,
smells so bad
your
in
room is
here.
so small too.
I know. And then I got to crack the window and if
Oh
it's 100
God.
degrees out or if it's 2 degrees out, bleh.
Well, they're farting all day, and like like half of them shit their pants. It's a whole thing.
Oh, these kids.
No, no.
That's my class trip story time.
All right, thank you,
I
Brugge.
hope Dill likes those, Maddie.
I know he really was cracking up at the last one.
Yeah.
Last time's podcast. I think that was
How many did you have altogether?
I read seven.
Yeah.
I had two more that I didn't read.
Oh. They didn't make the cut.
They didn't make the cut.
Okay.
Oh my God. But I have a story to tell you. This is not class trip story. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Can I tell you the
Yeah,
story?
let's hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So my
Who master
sister-in-law, Kate,
who masturbated in this one?
no,
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 but
okay.
listen to this. So my
Uh,
sister-in-law, Katie, her friend Audra works in the city, and her building is next to an apartment building. Her school building is next to an apartment building, like most schools are. And this building has balconies every day. Well, I'm gonna say every day. Every time it's hot outside, this woman who's probably in her 70s or 80s goes out on her balcony naked, and the point where like it's every time. So like the kids are looking out the window and all they see is this like old lady naked on the freaking balcony. The police have been to the house. They can't do anything about it because the woman technically is on her own property and she could do whatever she wants. So every time it's warm out, the kids get a really nice show.
Oh.
And
So
so she sent me pictures. She sent me pictures.
wait, so you are in possession of pic. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna die.
So she's naked.
well,
She's naked. She's not like in a bikini or something.
No, no,
no,
she's full frontal, boys.
Okay.
when I was lifeguarding years ago, I had a woman like go to take a shower. There was like a shower there. This was like a club where these like multi-millionaires went. And she would just completely just strip down, go and walk into the shower and she would not, pull the curtain,
Close the
right?
curtain.
She didn't close it. She left it open. And I'm over there at the desk and this became a thing, like she knows I was
Yeah,
just
but Maddie, like we're talking about like you were a teenager. We're talking about like
no, I wasn't.
seven and 8 year olds. Like
No, I was
7 and 8 year olds.
I was like 20 years old. You know what I mean? So
All right,
I was
well,
Yeah.
I mean it's different.
no,
We're talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
like 8 year olds
And wait, and
trying to learn their ABCs.
yeah, it's like the Shining, it's like room 227 or whatever.
It's a little different.
Oh
She's
man.
not in a furry costume, that's for sure.
Oh,
Oh my God. Anyway, sorry, that was like a total tangent.
no, that's great. That's
But that's what it is, like teaching in New York.
yeah, see, that's another thing. Like in most of the schools around the country, let's say, I would say, like here, you have a school, it's on a massive, it's like 1 story tall. It's not even 2 stories tall. It's all like
Right.
spread out and laid out and there's land. Like in the city, it's like your school building is like anywhere from, 4 to 7 stories tall. It takes up just a portion of a block and it's basically surrounded by residential buildings. You know what I mean? And if you're in the city, if you're in Manhattan or Brooklyn, you're probably like sandwiched between high rises or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or surrounded by high rises. So yeah, no, I mean that's like this sort of thing is probably more common than we think, even.
Yeah.
Oh, and anything could happen at any time on a trip. I think that's one of the things. Like you don't know what can happen. You know, I remember I was on I was outside. No, this wasn't a trip. This was a fire drill, and this guy had his car there and he just started cursing me out because we asked him to move. And I'm all the kids are there. So I remember like they're walking and he is just ripping into me and cursing, right? And I remember the teacher's like, wow, look at and the kids like are passing by and they're hearing this and I'm like, oh my God, like he's tearing Mr. I remember the teacher saying like, wow, look at Mr. Jacobs, how he's not saying anything back. They made it a teachable moment.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he was just saying he was really just saying the worst things possible. And the little babies are walking by and like, look how he's not responding and he's not cursing back. So I had to get like basically like completely chewed out in front of like all my
Yeah.
students. And he's like just in his car because I won't let him move out. You're not to let him move out. And he's just going at me hard. I'm like, oh man. Just anything could happen anytime. Actually, you leave the building, because you're dealing with people.
Did you guys take a school bus to school when you were younger?
Yes.
No. I took um oh, actually middle school I did. Yeah, middle school.
You did?
Yeah,
Yeah, middle school.
I had a
Ma-
walk to the bus.
but Matt, did you take a school bus or a city bus?
No, it was a school bus. But I had
Okay.
a walk to the school bus. It didn't come to my apartment building that I grew up with.
What
It was
about
like a
Yeah.
designated stop for the school bus to the school.
what about high
Yeah,
school?
I was yellow school bus, middle school and high school for me until like junior, senior year. My friend Kelly would drive me
Yeah.
then.
What about
But yeah,
elementary?
Elementary, I
me?
walked.
No, I was a
Yeah,
walker.
You a walker?
yeah,
Yeah. I was a
yeah.
walker.
You?
Walker. Like pre-K through eighth grade walker, and then high school city bus. Like we took
City bus.
two
Yeah,
city buses, like a
I
transfer.
Yeah.
I did one city bus ride.
Did you
Half.
guys ever have to do like the bus drills where you would have to jump out the back of the bus in case there was like an accident? Oh my God, guys, yesterday I was driving on Cyprus to work, and you know those like
Oh,
delineators, those triangle delineators? There was
Hmm.
a yellow school bus, literally two wheels on top of the delineator and two like Dukes of Hazzard style. I drove by like, holy shit, I can't believe this is
she's
crazy.
talking about the concrete divider that separates the two different lanes. I don't know why you're calling it a delineator, but it's like it's like, you know those delineator flux capacitors that they have in the highway to separate the two lanes, the delineation machine.
That Optimus Prime goes on.
The delineator. What the heck is a delineator?
Oh
Just
I'm
call it
nodding along
concrete
too. I'm like,
it's
oh
a
yeah, of
barricade.
course, of
It's
course. Yeah,
it's a lane divider.
yeah.
So anyway, the school bus was wait, now was
no, it was like teetering on this concrete wall. It
hold
was
on a second.
insane.
Are you saying that it
I
was
don't even know how it
balancing on
jumped.
there?
Yes, yes, that is exactly what
All
I'm
four
fucking saying.
wheels are off the ground?
No. Two wheels
Yeah.
were on the divider,
Yeah.
delineator,
Yes.
and the two wheels were on the ground, like teetering, like a
So
like
the bus
a
was like ready to tip over,
yes,
you know.
yes. And I didn't stop. There was no there was no one on the bus.
Wait,
So
this
I
was on
didn't stop.
Cyprus?
Yes.
But wait, is it Cyprus leading up to the Jackie? Like that part of
It's
Cyprus?
just getting off of the Jackie, heading down to Cooper on
But
Cyprus.
how did you even get
Like,
around? How did you get around it?
well,
Like
I
in the
mean,
other lane?
yeah, in the other lane, there's two lanes, so I had to go
I
around
was
it.
just imagining like you're driving past and this bus could fall at any
Yes,
moment.
yes. And like, I'm just thinking,
Were there
my
kids on
whole
there?
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, no, if
Oh,
there was somebody on there, I would have stopped. No, there was nobody on the bus. I swear to God, I would have. I
I'm
would
just no,
have.
I'm not saying you wouldn't. I'm just thinking about what you would have done. Like, like it's like you're like Superman, like you're like ripping off the back door of the bus, like holding up the bus with one arm.
Well, like all I'm thinking, so as I'm passing and I see like nobody's on it, so I pass and I'm like, how are they gonna get the bus? They're probably gonna have to get a crane. Like my mind's like, how are they gonna get the bus off of this divider? It was insane.
So
It was insane.
the bus driver basically like rode up onto this thing, I
Yes,
guess.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It was bananas.
That's like a big time. I mean, talk
Like a
about a
Spider-Man movie.
yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. I don't even know how we got here. And also, speaking of Superman, it's coming out. I
Yes, new
cannot wait.
Superman movie coming out.
Oh, oh my
Yeah,
God. And there's a
I totally
super
want to see it.
dog. I mean,
I
I can't
saw
wait for the
that. I
little
saw
super dog.
yeah,
So
they added a
cute.
super dog in. No, I want to see it too.
Yeah.
In the Superman with Henry Cahill though, when he's younger, remember the bus drives off the bridge and he saves all of his classmates.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think that was Superman, right? Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember if it was
Yeah, yeah,
Superman.
yeah.
There was a scene on in Spider-Man, I feel like, with a bus also. I don't know if that was
There was
Spider-Man or
there was
Superman.
there was a train scene in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Was
Oh,
it
maybe
train?
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
The bus is like the girl claims that she's witnessed Clark like lifting the bus out of the water. It's like I don't know. So
I don't
Well,
know.
in Superman, going back to, you remember Superman 3 when, no, Superman 2 when he's going against the three supervillains and,
yeah.
like he takes the bus and he throws it and he's like, "No, the people!"
Wait, that
Christopher
was
Reeve.
that
That
was
was
in part one, no?
no, Superman 2 when he's fighting the three people.
I
Oh,
don't know.
Superman
No.
2. Superman 2
Yeah,
is with Zod, General
yeah, with
Zod. Okay.
Zod.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
General
Wait,
Zod.
guys,
Yeah,
also,
he takes the bus and he throws it at him.
Yes.
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
did you know that they're also making a He-Man movie?
Yes.
Oh my God. No, I didn't know
Yes.
that.
And
Yes.
yeah.
They
And
released the
did you?
cast.
I
Yes,
grew up
they
on
did.
He-Man.
Yeah.
So it's
Rob,
Masters of the
did you have all the toys for He-Man?
Yes, of
Oh
course.
my God.
And don't forget Shira, Princess of Power.
My sister
Mm.
had the best
I'll have
She-Ra
to-
costume of all time for Halloween one year. And that same year,
Yes.
I was Han Solo. I'll bring that picture up at some point. Yeah, no, He-Man live action movie. They have the whole cast, you know.
Oh, cool. Who's playing He-Man?
That I don't actually recognize his name.
Nicholas, he was in a movie with Anne Hathaway. It was a really good
Okay.
movie. I forgot the name of it, but
But
yeah, Nicholas something.
they also have some He-Man characters who I'm not familiar with. So like Hapthor, like Thor from Game of Thrones is playing a
Okay.
character, but I'm not it's like Goat Man or something. Like I'm not familiar with that character.
Oh, no. I'm wondering who's going to play
Skeletor.
Skeletor.
Skeletor
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Jared Leto.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Oh,
Yeah.
he would be good at that.
They have
Yeah, that's
Ibis
awesome.
Aldra as Man at
Oh,
Arms.
oh, I love him.
They have
are they gonna make him blue? Are they gonna make Skeletor blue? Or
probably I would think so.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's gonna be a summer of great movies.
Oh
yes.
my God, I gotta check out what they did with He-Man. Rob, I was such a wrestling fan that eventually He-Man became a wrestler, but I changed his name
Oh, and
to
like
no to
with
play with
your
my wrestling figures.
figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you ever have He-Man then go
Yeah,
into
and I
the
had the
ring then?
wrestling, the like rubber wrestling
The rub
figures. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. I
And the
changed
G
He-Man looked like a wrestler that was there, so I
yeah.
changed his name to Quick Draw Rick McGraw. I just made He-Man, so then He-Man became somebody else to to wrestle in the with the rubber figures in the wrestling ring.
Yeah, yeah. I had
Those
all that
80s rings were
stuff.
awesome.
Castle Grayskull. I had all the,
Oh,
Battle
yeah.
Cat.
Yep.
So I still have an original Masters of the Universe figure here in my house that I had put on eBay at one point, but it just didn't sell. But it's I think it's like Stone Dar or something.
Okay.
It's a
I
character.
don't know if I still have I have the rubber wrestling figures in the closet, I think. Or
Yeah.
it's around here. I gave them to
Still in the
Dill.
package. This thing goes for like two
Oh,
hundred
no,
something
yeah.
dollars on. All right. Well, this was a good one. Another good one in the books.
That's right. That's right.
Totally
And
derailed that ending. Sorry about that.
no. Rob and I are just gonna talk about our old toys. So, but on that note, thanks for tuning in to Playing Teacher, and this was a great one. For Brugge and Rob, Maddie Kate here. We'll see you next time. I think we're going to be talking about graduation practice. Is I think it'll be our next pod, so that should be pretty cool. And we'll tune in for that. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot.